Okay, guys, we are back with Blessing, and for those of you who didn't catch the first 2 installments of this interview, you can check those out on our Facebook page and our Twitter. It's a Blessing's Leadership Talk, and so we are here to finish up with Blessing. It is about leadership, but we are going to talk about what a lot of people don't talk about a lot of times, which is the following aspect of leadership. If you've got a leader, you've got to have someone that's following you, or you're not a leader. So, we just wanted to talk about what it means to be a good follower. And so, Blessing, what do you think? How can you effectively follow good leadership? We've talked a lot about what a good leader is and what that means, but how can you really be good at following that good leadership?
I think let me start by issuing a disclaimer. I'm still learning as a leader, and interestingly, as a follower as well, there's lots of things that I'm also still trying to get right.
We've talked about what it means to be a good leader and what that good leadership looks like, but talk to us a little bit about how we can then effectively follow that good leadership. If we're not a leader ourselves, how can we then be a good follower?
I think, that's a very good question, and there are a couple of things to be considered. And the first one, I think, that I've noticed with most young people, when they actually it's not exclusive to young people, but because this is, I think, more targeted at young people and young leaders. One of the things that I've seen lots of people struggle with is learning to trust the wisdom and the experience of their leaders. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, the leaders that are appointed, that are leaders, are not just leaders by accident. And it's not an easy thing to just kind of, especially when you don't understand something, to just follow through with that. I think one of the important things is to learn to trust the judgment of your leader. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know how else to put it, but somehow most of the young people that I meet always want to. I'm not saying you shouldn't ask questions or you shouldn't try to understand better, but what I'm saying is that even when you don't understand, somehow just learn to trust your leadership. And especially in a Revive context, there's a lot of good leaders that we spoke about in the previous interview, and so learn to trust the wisdom and the experience of your leaders. I think that's a very important thing. And then the second thing about being a good follower, I'd want to highlight is just your willingness to serve, your commitment to follow through with whatever you say you will do. It's not always easy, but that's one of the things that will that will help you later on when you are now the leader. Good leaders understand what their followers are going through because they've walked in the shoes of their followers. So I think you must be willing to just tackle whatever comes your way as whatever you're assigned to. And then, another aspect of good following would be knowing your place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of young people just struggle with this aspect of who is he to tell me, or who is she to tell me that I must do this? I'll do what I want when I want and as I want and whatever. But I think good following, it makes their job easier for the leader, and not only that, but the cause that you're pursuing is always center place. So when the leader gives you an instruction or tells you to do something, it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be pleasant, but I think the most important thing about following is understanding that you is knowing your place. How do I fit into the picture? And if you don't understand how you do that, speak to your leader and say, you know what, tell me how I fit into the picture. Tell me how I can be a team player. Tell me how I can do also, how can I be a better follower? How can I better serve you? And many people think that how they think they're serving their leaders. In a sense, you are serving the leader, but in essence, you are serving the vision that leader is there to make sure is accomplished. Mm-hmm. So, which brings me to the next thing, in that the aspect of good following also includes you, just like the leader needs to die to himself to see that the vision is accomplished to his preferences, a good follower puts above everything else the goal that's in front of them. And with that being said, I'm not talking about, don't hear what I'm not saying, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that we now need to be a bunch of insensitive people, and just chase the goal at all costs. But what I'm saying is that we must learn that in everything that we're doing, we keep the main reason or the main purpose of what we're doing clearly in front. And I think Paul wrote a letter to the Galatians and the Galatian church, and one of the things he says that I love the message. It's probably in the first chapter, and he says he challenges them about having Jesus in clear focus, and so a good follower keeps a clear focus, that stays. They keep that in mind, and they keep that whatever it is that they're doing is not about them. A good follower knows that it's about dying to self for the greater good of the team and of the vision that's to be accomplished. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there's anything else that I can there probably are more things, but a good follower is also always willing to learn. And number one, a good follower is always willing to learn, and secondly, that they're not only willing to learn, but they're willing to change when their learning demands it. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the worst nightmares for leaders is when adjustments need to be made to better serve the vision or better serve other people or better serve a particular cause. And the worst nightmare is when the team behind him or her is just doesn't want to change, So that kind of puts the mission in jeopardy. So you must be willing to always be learning, and you must be always willing not only to learn, but to change when your learning demands that of you.
Okay, so we know that, not everybody can be a leader at all times, and if we were only all followers, then we wouldn't be going in any certain direction. So, that being said, we know we can't all be leaders and followers all the time. What about someone that doesn't know what their role is exactly? They may be a leader, but they're kind of scared of that, or they feel like a leader sometimes, but they know ultimately they may not be super comfortable with that. what do you suggest that they do to figure out their role? What are some steps that they can take?
The first thing I think would be something that helped me when I was growing up. I think I was very privileged to have amazing leaders in my life from a very young age. And I'm not just talking about my mom and dad and, like I mentioned in the first interview.
Mm-hmm.
But I had, that's very interesting actually. I had a youth leader that saw the leader in me when I was kind of clueless. So a starting place for me would be to go to your youth leader, and your youth leader somehow, believe it or not, even has or should have your best interest at heart. He's your leader, and just ask them, tell them, you know what, help me to tell me what you see when you look at me. Tell me what are some of the strengths that you see in me. What do you think I can do? What giftings do you see that I have that you think I can use to add value wherever we are? And so that's one place to start at. And another place to start is try your hand at everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you're gonna find out whether you have an aptitude or a strength for a particular thing is if you try. So go to the I don't know what context you serve in, but let's just say it's in your local church. Go speak to the children's pastor and say, hey, you know what, I'm just kind of trying to find what I can do. Do you mind if I try out or be an understudy for so long in the church, or if it's in your community, and you have, let's just say you have access to, some community leaders. Go to them and say, I just want to add value. How can I serve the community? So that's a place to start. How can I serve the community? Or can I try this out? And let me tell you, it's very rare. It may happen, but it's rare that you'll get knocked down for wanting to add value.
Right.
If you put it that way and say, you know what, all I want to do is add value, and as a matter of fact, I don't think I've encountered a leader that will turn you away. You want to add value? Go away. Nah, I've never encountered that. So do that. And then the other thing it would be, what are some of the things that really tickle your fancy? I don't know if you use this kind of language in the States.
Mm-hmm.
But you may discover that somehow in you there's certain things that just, when you do that, you're like, wow, what rings your bell? Bill Hybels used that statement. He spoke about, what rings your bell, what really makes you alive. So if there are already some things that really kind of make you feel alive when you do that, lean a little more into that and see how you can leverage that to serve other people. Another place to also what else would you do to discover if you have? Be willing to fail. I think that's going to be important. Know that you're not going to be good at everything, and you might, in fact, to be real, you might not be good at most things.
Right.
But you'll discover that you'll make your biggest difference when you focus into the list of things that you're best at. So that's be willing to lean into the seemingly little things that you may be good at instead of trying to be good at everything. So that's something that I'm also still kind of working through. I'm like far from arriving. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of things about myself as an individual and as a leader. But never stop trying. Never stop taking the risk. Never stop. Just tell yourself, I'm not going to allow myself to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Get a mentor. Get someone that you can go to and say, hey, help me. Look for someone that you see. Look for a leader that makes up part of the picture that you want to be as a leader, and just go to them and say, hey, ask them questions. How did you get where you are? Why do you do what you do? If I wanted to do what you're doing, how do I do that? And they'll be always more than willing to help you with that. I think for everybody, I think I don't want to close everything off in a corny way, but it's kind of a truth that I feel God has been reminding me of the last 2 days in my quiet times. And it's all in the letters of Paul. I think I already mentioned Galatians, how these guys started off very well. And then they did small things that caused them to start slowly shifting and drifting from where they were. And in his letter to the church in Corinth, in the first chapter, this morning for me what stood out was how Paul says to Corinthians, he first talks about the weight of what Christ did on the cross and the significance of that. And then he talks about how easily we, when we now start getting ourselves involved in minor things like, oh no, I belong to Apollo, no, Paul, or, for us it may be different things, but I think what I'd want to leave with you guys is watch for small things that can take you off your course. Be on guard. I think it was also Paul who wrote, and he says, I don't know if it was Paul, but it was someone in the New Testament. That's very helpful, right? But he says that be careful that you may think of yourself as still standing, but you've actually fallen.
Mm-hmm.
So never arrive. Your relationship with God must always come first and clear focus, because out of that's where all significance comes from. That's where the meaning and the purpose of life comes from. That's where good leadership comes from. That's where everything flows out of. And the greatest leader that we could ever follow and the greatest follower that we could ever learn from is Jesus. I don't know anybody who lived a life bigger than his. So I challenge everybody that, Jesus must always stay you must always stay in clear focus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you guys sometime.
I know. Well, we can only dream of the day that you come and hang out with us at Revive, and
yeah,
wouldn't that be wonderful?
That'd be great. I'd love some beef jerky when I get there. Ken, my man. Ken's got my back. I know him, man.
Mm-hmm. You might have to bring him some biltong for some jerky, but whatever.
Okay, if I can get it past the airport, you can do your strict laws there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that he got his through, so I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
but you know what? I really would love to see you guys, and it's always a pleasure having you guys at Youth Week.
we love it, and
I really appreciate that.
yeah, it's a game changer for us. We love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
Well, we so appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and share your infinite amount of knowledge on this subject with us.
You're good for my ego.
Yeah. But we hope this isn't the last time we'll talk. Sure, there'll be many other times where we're picking your brain about stuff, but we really appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Katie. It's been great hanging with you, and yeah, it's been great.